Welcome back to the dumbest, I think, channel on YouTube where I read a book and you listen, I think. I don't know. But today we're back to Shortcuts by Raymond Carver, collection of various short stories as he does, and I believe we're on the third one today. And this one's called Vitamins for anyone reading along. Let's get into it. I had a job and Patty didn't. I worked a few hours a night for the hospital. It was a nothing job. I did some work, signed the card for 8 hours, went drinking with the nurses. After a while, Patty wanted a job. She said she needed a job for her self respect. So she started selling multiple vitamins door to door. For a while, she was just another girl who went up and down blocks in strange neighborhoods, knocking on doors. But she learned the ropes. She was quick and had excelled at things in school. She had personality. Pretty soon, the company gave her a promotion. Some of the girls who weren't doing so hot were put to work under her. Before long, she had herself a crew and a little office out in the mall. But the girls who worked for her were always changing. Some would quit after a couple of days, after a couple of hours sometimes. But sometimes there were girls who were good at it. They could sell vitamins. These were the girls that stuck with Patty. They formed the core of the crew. But there were girls who couldn't give it away. Sorry. But there were girls who couldn't give away vitamins. The girls who couldn't cut it would just quit, just not show up to work. If they had a phone, they'd take it off the hook. They wouldn't answer the door. Patty took these losses to heart, like the girls were new converts who had lost their way. She blamed herself, but she got over it. There were too many not to get over it. Once in a while a girl would freeze and not be able to push the doorbell, or maybe she'd get to the door and something would happen to her voice. Or she'd get the greeting mixed up with something she shouldn't be saying until she got inside. A girl like this, she'd decide to pack it in, take the sample case, head for the car, hang around until Patty and the others finished. There'd be a conference. Then they'd all ride back to the office. They'd say things to buck themselves up. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, and do the right things and the right things will happen. Things like that. Sometimes a girl just disappeared in the field, sample case and all. She'd hitch a ride into town, then beat it. But there were always girls to take her place. Girls were coming and going in those days. Patty had a list. Every few weeks, she'd run a little ad in the penny saver. There'd be more girls and more training. There was no end of girls. Remember the penny saver? The little newspaper with all the classifieds and jobs and things like that. Very interesting. Forgot about that thing. The core aged myself right there. The core group was made up of Patty, Donna, and Sheila. Patty was a looker. Donna and Sheila were only medium pretty. One night this Sheila said to Patty that she loved her more than anything on earth. Patty told me these were the words. Patty had driven Sheila home and they were sitting in front of Sheila's place. Patty said to Sheila she loved her too. Patty said to Sheila she loved all the girls, but not in the way Sheila had in mind. Then Sheila touched Patty's breast. Patty said she took Sheila's hands and held it. She told her she didn't swing that way. She said Sheila didn't bat an eye, that she only nodded, held on to Patty's hand, kissed it, and got out of the car. That was around Christmas. The vitamin business was pretty bad off back then, so we thought we'd have a party to cheer everybody up. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Sheila was the first to get drunk and pass out. She passed out on her feet, fell over, and didn't wake up for hours. One minute she was standing in the middle of the living room, then her eyes closed, the legs buckled, and she went down with a glass in her hand. The hand holding the drink smacked the coffee table when she fell. She didn't make a sound otherwise. The drink poured out onto the rug. Patty and I, and somebody else, lugged her out to the back porch and put her down on a cot and did what we could to forget about her. Everybody got drunk and went home. Patty went to bed. I wanted to keep on, so I sat at the table with a drink until it began to get light out. Then Sheila came in from the porch and started up. She said she had this headache that was so bad it was like somebody was sticking wires in her brain. She said it was such a bad headache she was afraid it was going to leave her with a permanent squint. And she was sure her little finger was broken. She showed it to me. It looked purple. She bitched about us letting her sleep all night with her contacts in. She wanted to know, didn't anybody give a shit? She brought the finger up close and looked at it. She shook her head. She held the finger as far away as she could and looked some more. It was like she couldn't believe the things that must have happened to her that night. Her face was puffy and her hair was all over. She ran cold water on her finger. God, oh God, she said, and cried some over the sink. But she'd made a serious pass at Patty, a declaration of love, and I didn't have any sympathy. I was drinking scotch and milk with a sliver of ice. Ew, what is that a drink? Does anyone know if that's a thing? Scotch and ice with a sliver of ice. Ew. She was leaning on the drain board. She watched me from her little she watched me from her little slits of eyes. I took some of my drink. I didn't say anything. She went back to telling me how bad she felt. She said she needed to see a doctor. She said she was going to wake Patty. She said she was quitting, leaving the state, going to Portland. That she had to say goodbye to Patty first. She kept on. She wanted Patty to drive her to the hospital for her finger and her eyes. I'll drive you, I said. I didn't want to do it, but I would. Great time to start driving a car. I want Patty to drive me, Sheila said. She was holding the wrist of her bad hand with her good hand, the little finger as big as a pocket flashlight. Besides, we need to talk. I need to tell her I'm going to Portland. I need to say goodbye. I said, I guess I'll have to tell her for you. She's asleep. Sheila turned mean. We're friends, she said. I have to talk to her. I have to tell her myself. I shook my head. She's asleep. I just said so. We're friends and we love each other, Sheila said. I have to say goodbye to her. Sheila made to leave the kitchen. I started to get up. I said I'll drive you. You're drunk. You haven't even been to bed yet. She looked at her finger again and said, God damn, why'd this have to happen? Not too drunk to drive. You have to go to the hospital. I said, I won't ride with you, Sheila yelled. Suit yourself, but you're not going to wake Patty. Lesbo bitch, I said. Bastard, she said. That's what she said, and then she went out of the kitchen and out of the front door without using the bathroom or even washing her face. I got up and looked through the window. She was walking down the road toward Euclid. Nobody else was up. It was too early. I finished my drink and thought about fixing another one. I fixed it. Nobody saw any more of Sheila after that. None of us vitamin-related people, anyway. She walked to Euclid Avenue and out of our lives. Later on, Patty said, What happened to Sheila? And I said, She went to Portland. I had the hots for Donna, the other member of the core group. We danced to some Duke Ellington records that night of the party. I'd held her pretty tight, smelled her hair, kept a hand low on her back, and as I moved her over the rug. It was great dancing with her. I was the only fellow at the party, and there were 7 girls, 6 of them dancing with each other. It was great just looking around the living room. I was in the kitchen when Donna came in with her empty glass. We were alone for a bit. I got her into a little embrace. She hugged me back. We stood there and hugged. Then she said, Don't. Not now. When I heard that, not now, I let go. I figured it was money in the bank. I'd be at the table thinking about that hug when Sheila came in with her finger. Thought some more about Donna. I finished the drink, took the phone off the hook and headed for the bedroom. Took off my clothes and got in next to Patty. I lay for a while, winding down. Then I started in, but she didn't wake up. Afterwards, I closed my eyes. It was the afternoon when I opened them again. I was in bed alone. Rain was blowing against the window. A sugar donut was lying on Patty's pillow. A glass of old water was on the nightstand. I was still drunk and couldn't figure anything out. I knew it was Sunday and close to Christmas. I ate the donut and drank the water. I went back to sleep until I heard Patty running the vacuum. She came into the bedroom and asked about Sheila. That's when I told her, said she'd gone to Portland. A week or so into the new year, Patty and I were having a drink. She'd just come home from work. It was so late. It wasn't so late, but it was dark and rainy. I was going to work in a couple of hours. But first we were having us some scotch and talking. Patty was tired. She was down in the dumps and into her 3rd drink. Nobody was buying vitamins. All she had was Donna and Pam, a semi-new girl who was a klepto. We were talking about things like negative weather and the number of parking tickets you could get away with. Then we got to talking about how we'd be better off if we moved to Arizona, someplace like that. Fixed us another one. I looked out the window. Arizona wasn't a bad idea. Patty said, vitamins. She picked up her glass and spun the ice. For shit's sake, she said. I mean, when I was a girl, this is the last thing I ever saw myself doing. Jesus, I never thought I'd grow up to sell vitamins. Door to door vitamins. This beats all. This really blows my mind. I never thought so either, honey, I said. That's right, she said. You said it in a nutshell. Honey, don't honey me, she said. This is hard, brother. This life's not easy, any way you cut it. She seemed to think things over for a bit. She shook her head. Then she finished her drink. She said, I even dream of vitamins when I'm asleep. I don't have any relief. There's no relief. At least you can walk away from your job and leave it behind. I'll bet you haven't had one dream about it. I'll bet you don't dream about waxing floors or whatever you do down there. After you've left the goddamn place, you don't come home and dream about it, do you? She screamed. I said, I can't remember what I dream. Maybe I don't dream. I don't remember anything when I wake up. I shrugged. I didn't keep track of what went on in my head when I was asleep. I didn't care. You dream, Patty said, even if you don't remember. Everybody dreams. If you don't dream, you'd go crazy. I read about it. It's an outlet. People dream when they're asleep, or else they'd go nuts. But when I dream of vitamins. Do you see what I'm saying? She had her eyes fixed on me. Yes and no, I said. It wasn't a simple question. I dream I'm pitching vitamins, she said. Selling vitamins day and night. Jesus, what a life, she said. She finished her drink. How's Pam doing? I said. She's still stealing things? I wanted to get us off this subject, but there wasn't anything else I could think of. Patty said, shit. She shook her head like I didn't know anything. We listened to it rain. Nobody's selling vitamins, Patty said. She picked up her glass, but it was empty. Nobody's buying vitamins. That's what I'm telling you. Didn't you hear me? I got up to fix us another. Donna doing anything? I said. I read the label on the bottle and waited. Patty said, she made a little sale 2 days ago. That's all. That's all that any of us have done this week. It wouldn't surprise me if she quit. I wouldn't blame her, Patty said. If I was in her place, I'd quit. But if the but if she quits, then what? Then I'm back at the start. That's what. Ground zero. Middle of winter, people sick all over the state, people dying, and nobody thinks they need vitamins. I'm sick as hell myself. What's wrong, honey? Put the drinks on the table and sat down. She went on like I hadn't said anything. Maybe I hadn't. I'm my only customer, she said. Think I'm taking all these vitamins is doing something to my skin. Does my skin look okay to you? Can a person get overdosed on vitamins? Shouldn't she know a little bit about vitamins? I'm getting to where I can't even take a crap like a normal person. Honey, I said. Patty said, you don't care if I take vitamins. That's the point. You don't care of anything. The windshield wiper quit this afternoon in the rain. I almost had a wreck. Came this close. We went on drinking and talking until it was time for me to go to work. Oh, a little pre-work, pre-drink. These are all his stories, if you've been listening, are of a very certain type of person and a certain segment of the population. They're all sort of these hard times down in their luck, blue collar, as I keep saying, kind of people. So, drinking before work, perhaps not the most uncommon thing. Where were we? We went on drinking and talking until it was time for me to go to work. Patty said she was going to soak in a tub if she didn't fall asleep first. I'm asleep on my feet, she said. She said, vitamins. That's all there is anymore. She looked around the kitchen. She looked at her empty glass. She was drunk, but she let me kiss her. Then I left for work. There was a place I went to after work. I'd started going for the music, and because I could get a drink there after closing hours. It was a place called the Off Broadway. It was a spade place in a spade neighborhood. It's a bad word. It's a slur, derogatory term. It was run by a spade named Khaki. Ugh, I don't like that word. People would show up after the other places had stopped serving. They'd ask for the house specials, RC colas with a shooter of whiskey, or else they'd bring in their own stuff under their coats, order our seat, and build their own. Classic move. Musicians shown up to jam, and the drinkers who wanted to keep drinking came to drink and listen to the music. Sometimes people danced, but mainly they sat around and drank and listened. Now and then a spade hit a spade in the head with a bottle. Oh my god. Is this a local Pacific Northwestern term or something? Story went around once that somebody had followed somebody into the gents. What's the gents? Into the gents, I guess, men's room? And cut the man's throat while he had his hand down pissing. But I never saw any trouble. Nothing that Kaki couldn't handle. Kaki was a big spade with a bald head and lit up weird under the fluorescence. He wore Hawaiian shirts that hung over his pants. I think he carried something inside his waistband. At least a sap, maybe. If somebody started to get out of line, Kaki would go over to where it was beginning. He'd rest his big hand on the party's shoulder and say a few words, and that was that. I'd been going there off and on for months. I was pleased that he'd say things to me. Things like, "How you doing tonight, friend?" Or, "Friend, I haven't seen you for a spell." The off-Broadway is where I took Donna on our date. It was the one date we ever had. I'd walked out of the hospital just after midnight. It cleared up and stars were out. I still had this buzz on from the scotch I had with Patty, but I was thinking to hit Bernie's for a quick one on the way home. Donna's car was parked in the space next to my car, and Donna was inside the car. I remembered the hug we'd had in the kitchen. "Not now," she'd said. She rolled the window down and knocked ashes from her cigarette. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "I have so many things on my mind. I couldn't sleep." I said, "Donna, hey, I'm glad to see you, Donna." "I don't know what's wrong with me," she said. "You want to go someplace for a drink?" I said. "Patty's my friend," she said. "She's my friend too," I said. Then I said, "Let's go." "Just so you know," she said, "there's this place. It's a spade place," I said. "They have music. We can get a drink, listen to some music." "You want to drive me?" Donna said. I said, "Scoot over." She started right in about vitamins. Vitamins were on the skids. Vitamins had taken a nosedive. The bottom had fallen out of the vitamin market. Donna said, "I hate to do this to Patty. She's my best friend. She's trying to build things up for us. But I may have to quit. This is between us. Swear it. But I have to eat. I have to pay rent. I need new shoes and new coat. Vitamins can't cut it," Donna said. "I don't think vitamins is where it's at anymore." I haven't said anything to Patty. Like I said, I'm still just thinking about it. Donna laid her hand next to my leg. I reached down and squeezed her fingers. She squeezed back. Then she took her hand away and pushed in the lighter. After she had her cigarette going, she put the hand back. This sleazy man is taking advantage of a girl down on her luck. An easy target for him, I think, but also it's kind of scummy that everything's scummy about it, but it's extra scummy that it's like his girlfriend's wife's best friend and business partner. Worse than anything, I hate to let Patty down. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he does. We were a team. She re- she reached me her cigarette. "I know it's a different brand," she said, "but try it. Go ahead." I pulled into the lot for the off-Broadway. Three spades were up against an old Chrysler that had a cracked windshield. They were just lounging, passing a bottle and a sack. They looked us over. I got out and went around to open for Donna. I checked the doors, took her arm, and we headed for the street. Spades just watched us. I said, "You're not thinking about moving to Portland, are you?" We were on the sidewalk. I put my arm around her waist. "I don't know anything about Portland. Portland hasn't crossed my mind once." The front half of the off-Broadway was like a regular cafe and bar. A few spades sat at the counter, and a few more worked over plates of food at a table with red oilcloth. We went through the cafe and into the big room in back. There was a long counter with booths against the wall, and further back a platform where musicians could set up. In front of the platform was what passed for a dance floor. In front of the platform was what passed for a dance floor. The bars and nightclubs were still serving, so people hadn't turned up in any real numbers yet. I helped Donna take off her coat. We picked a booth and put our cigarettes on the table. The spade waitress named Hannah came over. Hannah and me nodded. She looked at Donna. I ordered us two RC specials and decided to feel good about things. After the drinks came and I'd paid and we'd each had a sip, we started hugging. We carried on like this for a while, squeezing and patting, kissing each other's face. Every so often Donna would stop and draw back, push me away a little, then hold me by her wrists. She'd gaze into my eyes. Then her lids would close slowly and we'd fall to kissing again. Pretty soon the place began to fill up. We stopped kissing, but I kept my arm around her. She put her fingers on my leg. A couple of spade horn players and a white drummer began fooling around with something. I figured Donna and me would have another drink and listen to this set. Then we'd leave and go to her place to finish things. I just ordered two more from Hannah when this spade named Benny came over with this other spade, this big dressed up spade. How many times are they going to say the word spade? This big spade had little red eyes, was wearing a three-piece pinstripe. He had on rose-colored shirt, a tie, a top coat, a fedora, all of it. How's my man? Said Benny. Benny stuck out his hand for a brother handshake. Benny and I talked. He knew I liked the music, and he used to come over to talk whenever we were both in the place. He liked to talk about Johnny Hodges, how he played sax backup for Johnny. He'd say things like, when Johnny and me had when Johnny and me had this gig in Mason City. Hi, Benny, I said. Want you to meet Nelson, Benny said. He just back from Nam today, this morning. He here to listen to some of these good sounds. He got on his dancing shoes in case. Benny looked at Nelson and nodded. This here is Nelson. I was looking at Nelson's shiny shoes, and then I looked at Nelson. He seemed to want to place me from somewhere. He studied me. Then he let loose a rolling grin that showed his teeth. This is Donna, I said. Donna, this is Benny, and this is Nelson. Nelson, this is Donna. Hello, girl, Nelson said. Donna said right back, hello there, Nelson. Hello, Benny. Maybe we'll just slide in and join you folks, Benny said. Okay? I said, sure. But I was sorry they hadn't found someplace else. We're not going to be here long, I said. Just long enough to finish this drink is all. I know, man, I know, Benny said. Sat across from me after Nelson had let himself down into the booth. Things to do, places to go. Yes, sir, Benny knows, Benny said and winked. Nelson looked across the booth to Donna. Then he took off the hat. He seemed to be looking for something on the brim as he turned the hat around in his big hands. He made room for the hat on the table. He looked up at Donna. He grinned and squared his shoulders. He had to square his shoulders every few minutes, like he was very tired of carrying them around. You real good friends with him, I bet, Nelson said to Donna. We're good friends, Donna said. Hannah came over. Benny asked for RCs. Hannah went away, and Nelson worked a pint of whiskey from his topcoat. Good friends, Nelson said. Real good friends. He unscrewed the cap of his whiskey. Watch it, Nelson, Benny said. Keep that out of sight. Nelson just got off the plane from Nam, Benny said. Nelson raised the bottle and drank some of his whiskey. He screwed the cap back on, laid the bottle on the table, and put his hat down on top of it. Real good friends, he said. Benny looked at me and rolled his eyes. But he was drunk, too. I got to get in shape, he said to me. He drank RC from both their glasses and then held the glasses under the table and poured whiskey. He put the bottle in his coat pocket. Man, I ain't put my lips to a reed for a month now. I got to get with it. We were bunched in the booth, glasses in front of us, Nelson's hat on the table. You, Nelson said to me. You is somebody else, ain't you? This beautiful woman, she ain't your wife. I know that. But you real good friends with this woman. Ain't I right? Had some of my drink. I couldn't taste the whiskey. I couldn't taste anything. I said, is all that shit about Vietnam true we see on the TV? Nelson had his red eyes fixed on me. He said, what I want to say is, do you know where your wife is? Bet she out with some dude and she be seizing his nipples for him and pulling his pud for a while. Pulling his pud for him while you sitting here, big as life with your good friend. Bet she have herself a good friend too. Nelson, Benny said. Nelson, nothing, Nelson said. Benny said, Nelson, let's leave these people be. There's somebody in that other booth. Somebody I told you about.
Nelson just this morning got off a plane, Benny said. Bet I know what you thinking, Nelson said. Bet you thinking, now here's a big drunk N-word, and what am I gonna do with him? Maybe I have to whip his ass for him. That's what you thinking? I looked around the room. I saw Kaki standing near the platform, the musicians working away behind him. Some dancers were on the floor. I thought Kaki looked right at me, but if he did, he looked away again. Ain't it your turn to talk? Nelson said. I just teasing you. I ain't done any teasing since I left Nam. I teased the gooks some. Oh, the languages. I mean, it's all these short stories have it. He grinned again, his big lips rolling back. Then he stopped grinning and just stared. Show them that ear, Benny said, put his glass on the table. Nelson got himself an ear off one of them little dudes. Ew, Benny said. He carry it with him. Show them, Nelson. Nelson sat there. Then he started feeling his pockets of his top coat. He took things out of one pocket, took out some keys and a box of cough drops. Donna said, I don't want to see an ear. Ugh. Double ugh. Jesus. She looked at me. We have to go, I said. Nelson was still feeling in his pockets. He took a wallet from a pocket inside the suit coat and put it on the table. He patted the wallet. 5 big ones there. Listen here, he said to Donna. I'm going to give you 2 bills. You with me? I give you 2 big ones, and then you French me. Just like his woman doing some other big fella. You hear? You know she got her mouth on somebody's hammer right this minute while he here with his hand up your skirt. Fair's fair. Here, pulled the corners of the bill from his wallet. Hell, here another 100 for your good friend, so he won't feel left out. You don't have to do nothing. You don't have to do nothing, Nelson said to me. You just sit there and drink your drink and listen to the music. Good music. Me and this woman walk out together like good friends, and she walk back in by herself. Won't be long, she be back. Nelson, Benny said, this is no way to talk, Nelson. Nelson grinned. I finished talking, he said. He found that he'd been feeling for. It was a silver cigarette case. He opened it. I looked at the ear inside. It sat on a bed of cotton. It looked like a dried mushroom. But it was a real ear, and it was hooked up to a keychain. Jesus, said Donna. Yuck. Ain't that something, Nelson said. He was watching Donna. No way. Fuck off, Donna said. Girl, Nelson said. Nelson, I said, and then Nelson fixed his red eyes on me. He pushed that hat and wallet and cigarette case out of his way. What do you want? Nelson said. I give you what you want. Kaki had a hand on my shoulder and the other one on Benny's shoulder. Leaned over the table, his head shining under the lights. How you folks? You all having fun? Everything all right, Kaki, Benny said. Everything A-okay. These people here was just fixing to leave. Me and Nelson gonna sit and listen to the music. That's good, Kaki said. Folks be happy is my motto. He looked around the booth. He looked at Nelson's wallet on the table and the open cigarette case next to the wallet. He saw the ear. That a real ear? Kaki said. Benny said, It is. Show him that ear, Nelson. Nelson just stepped off a plane from Nam with this ear. This ear has traveled halfway around the world to be on this table tonight. Nelson, show him, Benny said. Nelson picked up the case and handed it to Kaki. Kaki examined the ear. He took up the chain and dangled the ear in front of his face. He looked at it. He let it swing back and forth on the chain. Heard about these dried up ears and dicks and such. Took it off one of them. Beep, Nelson said. He couldn't hear nothing with it no more. I wanted me a keepsake. Kaki turned the ear on its chain. Donna and I began getting out of the booth. Girl, don't go, Nelson said. Nelson, Benny said. Kaki was watching Nelson now. I stood beside the booth with Donna's coat. My legs were crazy. Nelson raised his voice. He said, You go with this mother here. You let him put his face in your sweets. You both gonna have to deal with me. We started to move away from the booth. People were looking. Nelson just got off the plane from Nam this morning, I heard Benny say. We've been drinking all day. It's been the longest day on record. But me and him, we're going to be fine, Kaki. Nelson yelled something over the music. He yelled, It ain't going to do no good. Whatever you do, it ain't going to help none. I heard him say that. And then I couldn't hear anymore. The music stopped. And when it started again, we didn't, no, the music stopped and then it started again. We didn't look back. We kept going. We got out to the sidewalk. I opened the door for her. I started us back to the hospital. Donna stayed over on her side. She'd used the lighter on a cigarette, but she wouldn't talk. Try to say something. I said, "Look, Donna, don't get on a downer because of this. I'm sorry it happened," I said. "I could have used the money," Donna said. "That's what I was thinking." I kept driving and didn't look at her. "It's true," she said. "I could have used that money." She shook her head. Also, it's spelt I could of used the money, not I could have. Weird. "I don't know," she said. She put her chin down and cried. "Don't cry," I said. "I'm not going into work tomorrow, today, whenever it is the alarm goes off," she said. "I'm not going in. I'm leaving. I'm leaving town. I take what happened back there as a sign." She pushed in the lighter and waited for it to pop out. I pulled in beside my car and killed the engine. I took in the rear view. No, I looked in the rear view, half thinking I'd see the old Chrysler drive into the lot behind me with Nelson in the seat. Kept my hands on the wheel for a minute, and then dropped them to my lap. I didn't want to touch Donna. The hug we'd given each other in my kitchen that night, the kissing we'd done at the off Broadway, that was all over. I said, "What are you going to do?" But I didn't care. Right then, she could have died of a heart attack and it wouldn't have meant anything. "Maybe I could go up to Portland," she said. "There must be something in Portland. Portland's on everybody's mind these days. Portland's a drawing card. Portland this, Portland that. Portland's a good place. Portland's a good place as any. It's all the same." "Donna," I said, "I'd better go." I started to let myself out. Cracked the door and the over I cracked the door and the overhead light came on. Why is that so difficult? "For Christ's sake, turn off that light." I got out in a hurry. "Night, Donna," I said. I left her staring at the dashboard. Started up my car and turned on the lights. Slipped in gear and fed it the gas. I poured scotch, drank some of it, and took the glass into the bathroom. Brushed my teeth. Then I pulled open a drawer. Patty yelled something from the bedroom. She opened the bathroom door. She was still dressed. She'd been sleeping with her clothes on, I guess. "What time is it?" she screamed. "I've overslept. Jesus, oh my God! You've let me oversleep. God damn you!" She was wild. She stood in the doorway with her clothes on. She could have been fixing to go to work. But there was no sample case, no vitamins. She was having a bad dream, is all. She began shaking her head from side to side. I couldn't take any more tonight. "Go back to sleep, honey. I'm looking for something," I said. I knocked some stuff out of the medicine chest. Things rolled into the sink. "Where's the aspirin?" I said. I knocked down some more things. I didn't care. Things kept falling. The End of Vitamins by Raymond Carver from his collection of short stories called Shortcuts.